Hello, my name is Colin and welcome to the Virtual DM. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create a Fantasy Grounds Unity campaign template. This template will allow you to speed up the process of starting a new campaign anytime you get into one by having all of your favorite things loaded and set up for you ahead of time. So let's get into it. All right, so the first step in creating a campaign template is to create a campaign that we will use for that template. So I have opened up Fantasy Grounds here, and I am going to come over to Create Campaign. First thing I need to do is select the rule set that I'm going to use. In this particular case, I'll create a Dungeons and Dragons 5e. I'm going to give this a name, and in this particular case, I'm going to just call this campaign template. Now, if you end up creating a bunch of templates for different rule sets, it's probably going to be a good idea for you to add in there what type of rule set this is. So in this particular case, I'm going to call this campaign template for 5e. Next thing you are going to do is go through all of the extensions that you have and determine which ones you are going to use for your campaign template. Now, in general, that's probably going to be most of your favorite extensions. I'm going to go through in this particular case, pick a theme that I like to use, which is the Legacy Leather. I am going to leave it at that since I don't really need anything else for this example. So I would go through, pick all of these extensions that I'm going to use as part of my campaign. Once all of that is complete, I like to leave my campaign templates as a LAN connection. Then I'm going to come over here, hit start. Okay, one of the newest things we have to select when we start up any campaign is we have to determine if we want to use the 2024 rule sets as our default. Now, in my particular case, I'm creating a 5e campaign here. I'm going to say no to this. Next thing we see is our campaign setup. I'm not going to go through this particular way to set things up. I am going to click this so it doesn't show up every time. And here we go. So now we're going to go in, set up all of the things that is a part of our usual, in this particular case, a 5e campaign. So first thing I might do is go in here to our options and go through all of the options, set them all up the way that I like them for my campaign. Depending on the extensions that you've loaded, you'll have options in here for those particular extensions. Get all of that set up. We're going to go into our library, into modules. We are going to activate all of the modules that we want. So for example, for a 5e campaign, I would activate Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manuals, all of the modules that I want active for this particular campaign. I might go in, set up my dice. There's some fantastic things that you can do with dice in the Fantasy Grounds environment. I will leave a link to a video just up in the top there that'll show you how you can set your dice up. We might set up some audio. We've got now some sound settings that we can work with Sirenscape, loading in your own sounds, that sort of thing. We could look at maximizing and setting up our desktop. You might move your dice around, change the size of the windows, add in where your combat tracker is going to go, all that sort of stuff, whatever your favorites are. Basically, all of the things that you like within the Fantasy Grounds environment in terms of your basic setup for any campaign that you're going to be using within this particular case 5e. So one of the things that I like to do once I have all of this set up the way that I like it as for my campaign template, I just come down here to the chat window / and save, just to make sure everything has saved. Fantasy Grounds default is to save every 5 minutes. This just makes sure any changes I've made in potentially the last 5 minutes have saved. So now we have our campaign template all set up. I'm going to show you how you can use that template every time you want to start a new campaign. Okay, so now we have created our campaign template, in this case for D&D 5e. Now I'm going to show you how you can use this particular campaign template to create a new campaign with all of those settings that you've set up in the campaign template ready to go, which, as I mentioned before, speeds up the whole process of starting a new campaign immensely. So first thing we're going to want to do is to go into your Fantasy Grounds folder. Now, it is a really good idea to create a shortcut to this folder for yourself. If you have not or don't know where this folder is, you can go back to the startup screen for Fantasy Grounds, and right up here, I'm going to click on this little folder. It will open up that folder for you so you can figure out where your Fantasy Grounds folder is. There's lots of things that you might want to do in this folder beyond campaigns. You might want to add or remove extensions, add or remove modules, tokens. There's lots of things. This is a really good folder to make an access to. So if I want to make an access to that, you could just click on SmiteWorks here, right click on this, copy it, then go back to your desktop and paste a shortcut. Okay. I am going to close out Fantasy Grounds because if I do the step that I'm about to show you within the while Fantasy Grounds is open, this new campaign won't show. So you want to close your Fantasy Grounds first. Here, this is the folder that's going to access Fantasy Grounds for me that I talked about. So I'm going to come in here and you can see here's a list of all of our folders that the Fantasy Grounds environment utilizes. Now, I have a campaign folder up here called Campaign Filing Cabinet. That's not a default Fantasy Grounds folder. That is a folder that I use to store campaigns that I no longer need access to, but I might want to go back to at some point. And I'll talk about that folder a little later. What we want to do is we want to enter our campaigns folder. So we left click on our campaigns folder. Now you can see all of those campaigns, including our brand new campaign template. In order to utilize this campaign template, what we're going to do is right click on it. We're going to copy the folder, right click within our campaigns folder, and we are going to paste it. And you can see it makes a copy of that particular folder. Now I can right click, I'm going to rename it, and we're going to call this the new, if I could type, campaign. Hit enter. Now, this campaign that I have called the new campaign will have all of the setup that our campaign template had in place. I'm going to re-enter Fantasy Grounds. So I'm going to close out our folder, open up Fantasy Grounds. Takes us back to our startup screen. And when I come over here to load campaign, you can see still have my campaign template. And I now also have the new campaign. That was the one that we created. So you can see here my theme that I selected as part of the template is there. This is set up as a LAN connection. The rules are D&D 5e. And I'll just enter into there. All right, so now I'm inside this campaign here, and you will find that all of the settings that you had put in place, your options, your dice, your sound setting, where you've moved windows, all of that would be exactly the same as it was in your campaign template. So now you have a brand new campaign all fired up. Everything is loaded. Everything is configured the way that you want it, so you can get right into running that particular campaign. Now, I had mentioned that I use a campaign filing cabinet within my Fantasy Grounds filing system. So I'm going to open up my Fantasy Grounds folder here. You can see I've added in a campaign filing cabinet. I use this folder to store any campaigns that I don't need access to, so they don't show up on my list on the opening screen. It just helps to kind of keep things cleaned. I only have the particular campaigns available to me that I'm going to use. I also use this as a place to store any of my campaign templates so that they're not always showing up on that campaign list. So in order to do that, first thing you're going to want to do is create a campaign filing cabinet. So you're going to right click within our folder here. You're going to create a new folder. You're going to rename that folder as your campaign filing cabinet. Now, I already have one here, so I'm going to enter that filing cabinet. And you can see I have some old campaigns here that I no longer need access to. So once you've created your campaign template, what I like to do is I'll go into my campaigns folder. I'm going to right click on that template. I'm going to select cut. I'm going to come back to my Fantasy Grounds, go into my campaign filing cabinet, right click, and I am going to paste that template in there. Now, anytime I want to use this particular template to create a new campaign, I will right click on it. I'm going to copy it, right click again, paste, click on there, rename it. Then I'm going to right click on the new campaign. I'm going to cut it, go back to my Fantasy Grounds campaign folder. I'm going to paste it in there. Now I've added that new campaign into my campaigns folder so that when I fire up Fantasy Grounds, go to load, you can see I have that new campaign right in there. So just a nice way to be able to keep things from getting cluttered. You may have multiple templates you're working with. You can keep all those in a separate file folder. Fantasy Grounds will just ignore that folder. You can store any campaigns you're not using, any of your campaign templates that you have created. So just a little shortcut there, a little bonus. All right, so that's a wrap for this video. Hopefully you found some value in the topic. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, including what you might like to see in future videos. If you've already subscribed to the channel, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. If you haven't, please consider doing so by subscribing to the channel, as well as liking and commenting on my videos. You let me and YouTube know that you're finding value in the channel. So thanks for watching, and happy gaming.